and those challenges have been met, not for the sake of just meeting the challenge, because I want to prove to you that global warming is true. It's not about that. The process of science is where if I'm wrong, we're going to say this is wrong, this is not true. That gets eliminated. That's the whole process of science. Take out which is what is not true and keep what is true. And if what we thought previously was true and now we know it's not true, you throw it out. Start the science all over again. You stop me at an hour, right, for 5 minutes break. I want to give you examples of some other challenges that have been put forward. You will some of the common things that you will hear on television by scientists, experts who have not done a research for a day in their life, but nonetheless they have a PhD. Nobody asks them what their background is. Nobody asks them who writes them a paycheck, right? They get hefty paychecks. Money, I will show you in the process of this story how powerful money is. Money can buy the most distinguished scientists in the world, and it did. There's a story here. And you realize that poor scientists don't make that much money anyways. So if you offer them 5 times what they usually make, they will make some statements, iffy statements, questionable statements. So some of the things that people still challenge today, what about, hey, there was a medieval warming period, how do you explain that? You will hear people say, this is deception, this is bull, this is a hoax. Look at this graph. They will show you that carbon dioxide actually comes after the temperature goes up first. They will give you examples like that, and that will convince everybody. Because everybody doesn't realize that scientists had the same question a long time ago and they studied it. And they still established the connection. I do not have those papers, but anybody interested, I can specifically dig out for you what paper at what time established why that still continues to be true despite that challenge. There are other challenges. Common challenges, how do you know that the change in environment and temperature is not due to natural causes? Because obviously there are many, many other factors. It's not stupid carbon dioxide. There are many other things. There's methane, there's water vapor. Methane is actually 32 times more greenhouse than carbon dioxide is. It turns out that there's very little methane in the atmosphere. Most of it comes from the cows. When they poo, they release some methane, and you can smell it when you go to Bakersfield. There is a lot of methane buried in the North Pole, the tundra. That's one of the fears, is that if tundra melts and we release that methane, we are all screwed. Because methane will have a 32 times more. It's fortunate that there's very little methane out there. It's mostly carbon dioxide. To this day, there are some scientists, they challenge that it's due to solar sparks. It's all solar radiation. All the changes in the environment are due to solar radiation. That's been said a long time ago by scientists. Why they continue to challenge? Because the talk show host doesn't have a clue. All you have to do is to talk loud. And the louder you talk, the more people will believe you. In 1992, the first President Bush actually signed in Rio de Janeiro, he signed a treaty, and actually he had the leadership. He said, we are doing this, the greenhouse effect, we need to stop that. The whole world need to act on it. So you wonder if until the 90s, if this was a bipartisan issue, Republicans, it was not a Republican or Democratic issue, since when it became in the last 20 years, what happened? Why it became a political issue? And even afterwards, those Republicans, and I have nothing against Republicans, actually, the way I believe in capitalism, I will sound like a Republican more than anything else most of the time, although I'm neither. I think you cannot categorize any thinking person into any political party. If you are a thinking person, you cannot by definition be either this or that, because you look at the individual issue and you think about it. And once you start thinking about it, then there are going to be some Republican things that are correct, and there are some Democratic things which make more sense. So how can a thinking person be categorized in any way? Even after that, there were other people in the Republican Party who was very hostile to this issue, they finally said, well, you know what, let's give up on this. This is true. And I'll give you some examples. So this is like the history of how we discovered the global warming, anthropogenic, we are causing this problem. I'm going to tell you now a second story that tells how the confusion occurred, how we got confused about it, especially in the last 20, 30 years. So the question is, why are we still arguing about it? If the science is already known, every 2 years the International Committee, with opinions of about 170 countries of literally thousands of experts, is consistently saying the same thing. Why are we still arguing? Why do we Americans think that scientists are arguing about it? We believe that scientists are not arguing about it, especially the ones who actually do research. There's 100% consensus. I'll give you an example. Frank Luntz, he was a Republican strategist. He made a statement finally in 2003. Even he gave up. He said, global warming is happening and we are probably causing it. But then he turned around and he told the Republicans, you want to win the election, keep this as an issue. Advertise in the media that we are uncertain, we are not sure, create doubt. That's the technique we use. Create a doubt among public. Even in 2007, finally Dick Cheney said, well, now we know this is true, global warming is happening and we are causing it, but we are not sure. Now this Dick Cheney is saying again the same challenge which has been settled a long time ago. He said, but we are still not sure if it's due to natural causes or we are causing it. We are still not 100% sure. He made that statement. It turns out that that graph, which has been thoroughly studied of all the possible other forces that can potentially cause climate change, the graph exists for all the other factors combined, and there is a superimposed graph of what is actually happening, and the only explanation, that is the most powerful graph available in science, that tells you that there could not be any other reason other than the fact that we are burning fossil fuels. That's the only factor that stands out. If you take that factor out, both graphs superimpose each other. And this science is known for a long time. So in 2007, Dick Cheney is still saying, we are not sure. We know it's global warming, but we cannot be sure if it's due to natural causes or due to humans doing it. So throughout history, it was a bipartisan issue, but it became a Republican issue in the last 20, 30 years. Now, if you want to know, if you remember one word from today's lecture, you can always go back and figure out the truth, and that word is Marshall Institute. This is where the whole problem started with. Marshall Institute was a institute established by Reagan government in 1984 after the name of Charles Marshall to defend SDI program. Why did they have to establish it? Because 6,500 scientists said that we are not going to take money or grants from this program because it's an unrealistic program. It's Star Wars. We don't need it. It's going to destroy the economy, and the threat of Cold War is not such that we need to go crazy about it. And the program itself doesn't make sense, and it's not realizable. It will take billions and billions of dollars just to figure out if it's feasible. And there were two scientists that were working with the government. They came up with the idea that they established this institute with the sole purpose of political ideology and to say that all these scientists, 6,500 scientists, they're wrong. That this is some kind of hoax or deception, that this science is not clear, that these scientists are purposely writing papers like that, or they are eliminating from it, they're picking and choosing, and they're trying to prove what they are saying, but actually there's no good data on it. Now, why would the public buy that? Just 2 or 3 scientists? Why would they, accept a doubt based on just 2 or 3 people as opposed to 6,500 people? Because remember, these scientists are not ordinary people. They are not ordinary systems. They are not someone who is not known, who has not done research. They are very distinguished scientists. For example, the person who actually established it, the Marshall Institute, his name is Jastrow. He was head of the Goddard Institute before he established Marshall Institute. He was a physicist, he was an astrophysicist, actually very well-known astrophysicist. And the sole purpose and intention of this institute was to defend SDI. Because there are some very distinguished scientists connected with this institute, some people get the impression that it was some kind of a science research institute. Even though it was headed by scientists, it was not for the purpose of doing science, it was with the purpose of a political ideology and to defend the government's ideas of SDI. As soon as Jastrow established the Marshall Institute, he immediately hired 2 other scientists who were sympathetic, who had connections with the government. Their names were Frederick Seitz. Frederick Seitz was a reputable. Remember, these are not regular scientists. They have made a name, they have done research, discovered a lot of good stuff in their own fields of expertise. He was a solid state physicist. And he also hired William Neunenberg, who was from the Scripps Institute of Oceanography. These were also reputable scientists. So like I said, it was not a science institute, it was a political institute. And the idea was, we are going to penetrate into the media, mass media. And we're going to use some techniques. Remember, the whole idea behind this was the fear that if this global warming, government is going to start regulating and we are going to lose our freedom. And from that perspective, I don't see these people as evil people, because they had a genuine fear that once, how crappy government is. Government takes over, we are all screwed. I always tell a funny story to people. Doctors bill for their services. I may have billed for some services $30 about 20 years ago, which I forgot about. Week after week after week for the last 15 years, I receive an envelope in the mail from Medi-Cal showing denied due to this reason. 15 years later, there's not a week goes by. This tells you how government can really destroy human spirit. That's how government works. People go work for government, they drink coffee 6 times a day. You send an application to government, they lose it. You reapply, they lose it. 3rd time, they can't find it in the file. Government is, and so I don't, the genuine fear that if government, so there was the fear that this fear of global warming, government is going to start regulating, and that is the last thing capitalism wants. So they had this fear, and that was their whole idea, that prevent government regulation. That's the whole idea behind it. And then, of course, some of the people who are giving money, the big companies, the tobacco company, the oil companies, they don't want to stop digging oil. So they are the power behind it. So scientists, when you give them a lot of money, they will speak your language. Am I blaming just scientists? It's probably human nature. I mean, this is, unfortunate, but most human beings will fall in that trap. I'm not saying every single one of them, but this is a common weakness that humans have. So the 2 strategies they were going to adopt was the fairness doctrine. They said,